Welcome, everyone. Joe Tarnowski with ECRM, and I have with me Bethany Gomez of the Brightfield Group. And today we're going to explore the need states of relaxation and energy, uncovering what U.S. consumers are doing to wind down and to amp up based on Brightfield's AI-powered social listening tool. So, Bethany, thanks for joining us. And let's start off talking about anxiety and winding down. So, according to your insights, nearly half of the American population frequently experiences feelings of anxiety and stress, but this
Mhm.
varies by generation. What are you seeing in your findings?
Absolutely. Well, first, it's a pleasure to be here, Joe. Thanks for having me as always. And yes, to your point, different generations are experiencing stress in different ways. We see this come through. Gen Z is the most stressed and the most anxious generation that we're seeing out there. And this generation is really coming of age in an era with a lot of challenges that they're facing. Stressors from constant exposure to social media, stressors in the form of financial implications of hyperinflation and low wages, as well as just a mental health crisis, that's been faced, especially coming out of COVID. So we see that more than 40% of Gen Z consumers are reporting severe anxiety or significant anxiety on a regular basis. Now, what they're looking to use to be able to kind of to achieve or to solve for some of this anxiety. There's both kind of the relaxation side of things, but they also find that this anxiety makes it very difficult for them to focus. So they're looking for a lot of products to help improve their focus and improve, their relaxation as well. So we see a lot of use of products, such as, some of the ashwagandha, some of the functional mushrooms have become very, very big. And we'll get into this some more, a little bit later. But products like lion's manes and cordyceps and rishis, are really helpful for that generation. When we're looking in at baby boomers on the complete other side of the spectrum, stress really weighs in on them more on a physical basis. This is less of a generation that is kind of, looking at mental health or is as focused on mental health, but it's a generation that is, older on in years and starting to feel a lot of the, implications of everything that they've done throughout their lives. So arthritis is something that we've seen a real spike in conversation and focus around, and some of these physical manifestations of stress. So when we look at some of the products or the way that these, consumers are approaching, dealing with those issues, that's coming in. We see lots of conversations around products like turmeric or curcumin, even Irish moss, that is really helping to, really drive anti-inflammation and help kind of bring that inflammation down, be able to help kind of those baby boomer bodies to, to really relax.
So,
Um,
in their case, the stress is causing inflammation, which is leading to those physical things, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the impact. Although I will say that baby boomers are the least stressed and least anxious, generation.
Mhm.
We see that only 16% of baby boomers are really express anxiety.
Mhm.
It's kind of a significant issue or challenge that they're facing.
Yeah, and mushrooms have really gained the spotlight over the past couple of
Mhm.
years. In fact, I think it was last year I did an article just all about mushrooms because of a number of things. One, it all started during COVID. People were stuck at home and looking for interesting things to cook, and mushrooms have the variety and the availability. And on top of that, they have all of those other benefits for immunity and health. So they really started getting used in cooking, but and also in beverages, in supplements, and all of these different
Mhm.
things. And I even talked to someone who did food service for universities, and they said like now, the students are always asking for mushrooms on everything. They have mushroom tacos,
Yeah.
mushrooms on pizza. Well, that's not anything new, but they're coming up with a lot of new types of
Mhm.
meals incorporating all different types of mushrooms.
Absolutely. It's really been interesting to look at it. There's both, mushroom as kind of a straight food product, as you're mentioning, as a topping, as an ingredient that's becoming much more in vogue, as mushrooms get kind of this halo effect over
Mhm.
them as, a bit of a superfood. We're also seeing this kind of come through in the format of mushroom-based proteins that can, work their way into the, protein powders or kind of that plant-based protein area. As there's some pushback on other types of plant-based proteins. Mushroom-based protein is kind of taking two of some of the sexiest topics that are out there, right?
Mhm.
Protein and these superfoods and kind of combining those together. But we've also really seen this take storm in the supplement space,
Mhm.
and almost to a level that is reminiscent of when CBD first hit back in 2019. It's being positioned in a lot of different ways. So we see it positioned very effectively in, to your point, in beverage products. I think, just about all the functional beverage products that were released, I think in 2022, 2023, all had adaptogenic mushrooms in them,
Yep.
whether that was for focus or immunity or relaxation. We've seen that really take form in the form of, immunity supplements.
Mhm.
We see that as very popular amongst millennial consumers, turning to some of those immunity-based products, but also for, some of these, focus or specifically positioned supplements, but is also being used, on more of the, almost recreational side of things. There's a lot of hype around psychedelics and psychedelic mushrooms, and a lot of kind of consumer interest around those for addressing mental health issues like depression and PTSD. And there's a lot of brands that are coming out that are positioning their products as legal psychedelics or legal magic mushrooms that are really just the same formulations as that you're seeing on the supplement side of the world, that include lion's manes and rishis and cordyceps, but are kind of making their way into this brand positioning that's much more
Mhm.
targeting consumers that are, maybe cannabis users or smoke and vape shop consumers, and are kind of targeting more of that market and are more widely available online. So there's adaptogenic mushrooms, and mushrooms overall are fitting into so many different areas of our lives and the kind of food bev supplement spectrum. But
Yep.
I don't, we've seen that growth in conversations around, adaptogenic mushrooms just continue to spike, and really, particularly amongst those, Gen Z and millennial consumers that are kind of gaining that awareness of these products and starting to, to turn to them for a lot of those need states that they're looking for. So exciting times on the mushroom side of things. And
Sounds like it.
I think there's certainly more to come there.
Oh yeah, no doubt. What about I don't think this was mentioned specifically in the report that you did, but what about sleep supplements as it pertains to winding down and anxiety? Obviously, if you get good sleep, it's going to take care of a lot of that. Has that kind of led to more of a push in that area too?
Yeah, sleep is a really important topic for Americans. I mean, as coming out of the pandemic, the number of Americans that have reported issues with sleep and kind of challenges, not diagnosed insomnia, but really just this kind of stress-induced sleep challenges
Mhm.
have really grown. And so sleep-based products, have really manifested in a lot of different product categories. You have your kind of standard melatonin gummies that
Mhm.
are or melatonin products. There's been a bit of the halo's falling off a little bit when it comes to melatonin products. There's been some more, studies that have come out indicating that that is not necessarily the most health forward way to be, products to be using on an ongoing, consistent basis. Some with children, some, for older consumers as well. So I think there's, definitely an openness to exploring other types of ingredients that can help with that. Lavender, for example, is an ingredient that we've seen, grow considerably on social media. People are talking about lavender-based products, as it relates to sleep. They're talking about it as it relates to other ingredients, and it's pretty broadly, popular amongst those that are looking for some of these, alternatives. But we see sleep positioned products, this as almost its own category that
Mhm.
spans across, different product formats. It's coming up in functional beverages quite a lot. It's coming up in, even some, food products, certainly on the cannabis side, but supplements have really been able to take kind of a piece of all of those areas. And I think it's an area where there's quite a bit more opportunity as well. I think, I would advise supplements companies to watch what products are doing on the functional food and bev side of things,
Mhm.
and look at some opportunities to, position, their products and pick up on those trends, and to be able to bring the same solutions to clients in different ways or customers in different ways.
Yeah, and it's also
Mhm.
expanding into other categories too. Like, you have, the blue light blocking glasses. You
Mhm.
have the blackout curtains, which I use in my
Mhm.
bedroom. You have white noise radios.
Yeah.
That's specifically for going to sleep. So there's a lot of other tangential categories that are being
Yeah.
impacted by that whole sleep thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You can turn to a product to help, something you put into your body to help solve for things, or you can turn to, other alternatives. It's
Mhm.
so interesting to look at these categories, not just from that traditional, product category lens of I am looking at just my melatonin gummy versus other people's melatonin gummies as really kind of the sleep category,
Mhm.
that and all kind of sleep solutions that you're really competing with, right? Or it could be complementary to, but solutions for sleep can range from a glass of wine to the Calm app to going, doing some yoga or a
Marijuana.
supplement, right? Exactly,
Yeah.
marijuana, or a supplement. And so, consumers have a wide range of options. And, particularly in the supplement space, I really encourage, our clients to really look at the world through this need state focus, which is
Mhm.
increasingly where, the way that consumers are approaching, these conversations around sleep, around energy, around relaxation. This is not one specific category. This is, or these aren't specific product types. These are kind of need state based categories that, are emerging.
Mhm. Speaking of need states, let's talk about amping up, right?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want a little additional energy throughout the day? And so based on your research, who are these energy consumers, and what are they doing for energy?
Yes. So Americans are tired, Joe. They're tired, right? Gen Z and millennials in particular, which are the youngest, so they should, in theory, have the most natural energy, but need the most help. I think there's a lot of these consumers are at the height of their busy schedules. When you look at kind of the millennial parents that may be kind of juggling both sides of things, parent schedules, work, maybe tending to their parents. Gen Z has kind of this, as we talked about before, this constant onslaught of, notifications and, engagement from all sides from a digital standpoint. So we're seeing a lot of challenges from an energy standpoint. And meanwhile, consumers are looking for, back before, years ago, people would just drink a lot of coffee, right?
Mhm.
A lot of coffee if they were tired. But we see, or drink, 10 years ago, consumers would just turn to energy drinks, your traditional Red Bulls or your Monsters or your Rock Stars, to be able to help drive, boost that energy if you're a, young person trying to get that boosted. Get up there. But what we're seeing now is that consumers are looking for, different forms, more natural forms of energy, energy boosting products. Gen Z consumers are obsessed with matcha. Just the spike in conversations over the past year around, Gen Z consumers talking about matcha and just relying on matcha to almost a religious
Mhm.
capacity has grown so immensely. It's become kind of that go-to product, that go-to ingredient
Mhm.
for Gen Z consumers. They're also looking to, Gen Z is a generation that is really kind of throwing a lot of the norms of, generations past completely out the door and rethinking their relationship, with, traditional products like alcohol, like meat, and, like coffee also. So some of these kind of more natural alternatives are very appealing to many Gen Z consumers. On the other side of things, we have very interestingly seen conversations, particularly around millennials, skyrocket around B12 shots. So this is kind of a newer thing, not brand new, but this has really been a newer thing that's been increasing dramatically amongst millennial consumers that are really looking to get that extra level of energy and have it be kind of sustained, right? So it's kind of a new approach. They still love iced coffee. They loved their cold brews. They're sticking to a lot of some of those products, but they're also looking for some more alternative energy products.
Yeah.
This kind of leads into some of we talked about how the mushrooms are positioned almost, again, like CBD was a few years ago, where it can do everything. It's focus,
Yep.
it's, immunity, it's energy, it's, so millennials are turning to those products in the form of both, supplements as well as kind of functional food.
So when you
Products
say
as well.
B12 shots, are you talking about the ones you drink or the B12, the B
Both.
shot?
We're
Both.
seeing
Okay.
both,
Yeah.
right? So it's really remarkable how much those I think are have been increasing. There's been a lot of influencers on social media that have been talking about this, that
Mhm.
have been kind of helping to really drive that. But we're seeing that pop up, and not just in kind of the trendy enthusiast, persona segment, or just the, trendsetter, new folks that are, or people that will jump on every new health trend, but
Yeah.
also among some of the more, low to middle income, consumers that are looking for some of these, new energy sources. So I'm sure more to come on this front, but
Yeah. Well,
very existing development there. Mhm.
you see an explosion of these IV drip places too,
Yeah.
and a friend of mine had one, and I mean you could see they had the energy ones, they have the weight loss ones, they have immunity ones, they have I'm
Mhm.
sure they have an anxiety stress one. I don't remember if offhand, but I know they had the other ones. I've tried B12
Hydration.
shots. Yeah. Well, yeah, and then they have the hydration ones, and from what I hear, those work really good. For me, I just can't see myself spending like 200 to three hundred
Yeah.
dollars. I'd rather just sleep the hangover off and waste the day rather than do that.
Drink
Plus,
water, right?
yeah, yeah, and they have mobile ones too. They have mobile drip companies that will bring it to you. But God, it's like $400 to do that. So it's like, you know what? I can't see a
Much.
situation. Just don't drink. If
Yeah.
you have a big meeting the next day, just don't drink the night before, and you'll be fine. But the B12 shots, I really the shots meaning the injections. The only time I actually noticed that helping is like if I was on a trip and then I came back and I was just physically like drained and
Yeah.
then I did it, then it would help kind of perk me up over the next couple of days. But it's not an immediate thing, and people don't realize it's not like they, you know, inject you and all of a sudden, it's not speed,
Yeah.
it's something that's supposed to gradually over a couple of days increase. But then I just had my doctor measure my B12 and she was like, you don't need any of those shots,
Yeah.
as long
Right.
as you eat well, it's like you don't need the injection. But obviously, yeah, we're seeing a lot more of the functional shots, the
Mhm.
beverage shots, whether it's for relaxation, whether it's for, like you said, a lot more of the packaging is
Yeah.
addressing the need states, right? So you'll
Yeah.
see it'll say relax, it'll say for energy, it'll say for sleep, de-stress or whatever.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting call out too, because when we're also surveying consumers and asking them around supplements and the formats that they want these products to take, it was initially capsules, and then gummies kind of really stormed in and
Hmm.
took a lot of that market. And now a lot of consumers are looking for their supplements in more liquid form,
Yeah.
right? whether that's, a shot, or whether that's a pouch,
Hmm.
or whether that's, a powder that they can mix into a drink. So there's a lot of kind of overlap now in the minds of consumers in terms of what is a supplement and what is a functional beverage,
Yeah.
right? That kind of
Hmm.
line is, I think has never been blurrier, which, is a real opportunity, I think, for line extensions on both sides, right? Both for kind of
Definitely.
supplements companies as well as, for those bev companies as well.
Yep. Well, to wrap up, based on your data, what are your recommendations? And you just touched on one of them. Recommendations for brands and retailers on how to best serve these consumers that are
Yeah.
looking to amp up and to wind down.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest advice would be to really think about these categories as a need state driven category. This relaxation products are their own category. And, for retailers, we've seen a lot of, some of our clients that have launched products, with these different, kind of cross product portfolios that are based on need states. They've found the best success in retail comes from, end caps, or, displays that have different types of products that are all
Hmm.
positioned for sleep or for
Hmm.
relaxation or for, these areas. So if you understand that consumers are starting to shop this way, then, at least from, with some end caps or with some areas that you can, more easily dabble in, being able to pull these, a great kind of product set, together to be able to address those. From a brand side of things, always be thinking about not just what your product is, but what it does for
Yep.
consumers and how you can communicate and position those. Because Americans have never been more interested in, that outcome. And they want things to be simple for them to understand, right? They're looking for, their supplements, they're looking for their, food and bev products to be kind of that alternative medicine that's going to create the solutions for them, in a way, and are trying to not turn to pharmaceutical products, and so making it as easy as possible for them, developing these kind of need state driven products and communicating the benefits in a need state driven way, will make it so much easier for consumers who don't have the time to research what every and little, what every individual ingredient might do or things like that. So
Hmm.
starting to kind of think about, get out of your niche category and like you're just, your niche product type, blow the doors open and kind of think cross category, from a need state perspective, I think is the best advice I would give to brands out there. Mhm.
Awesome. All right. Well, everybody, you can find more of
Mhm.
this research and data on their website. So, brightfieldgroup.com. And Bethany, as always, it's been great talking to you. And thanks for the research and insights.
Always a pleasure, Joe. Thanks.
Thanks.